الكونسبت concept no concept. Hi Sabine, calling from Barcelona.
هاي كيفك شيرين؟ ايش الحال؟
I'm good. أنا ببيروت, and I'm very happy to talk to you after all this time because I saw you live at Tuta a couple of years ago, and it was a very small show, very simple, just you and a microphone, and it was so powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, that was actually my first show in Beirut. It's like maybe 2-3 years ago now. I think I've come a long way since then. But it was a nice show, actually. I remember it was 2 microphones, and I had the paddle with me, and I was changing my voice with some of the songs. Are we doing this in English or?
Yeah, we can speak. فينا نروح إنه فينا نحكي شوي إنجليزي شوي عربي because it's an international audience, so I prefer for everybody to be able to follow. بس فينا نحكي شوي هيك شوي هيك يعني. Sorry.
يتعلموا عربي.
إيه لازم. Now that's part of the project too, is to teach, is to sort of follow a train of thought that is not Western centric, يعني also including language and musical language as well, to sort of practice hearing in a way that's non-Western or non-Western centric. So I'm sure you, that's part of your practice as well, right?
هو هيك يعني because I write in Arabic. So a lot of people ask me, why don't you translate your songs? And it's because a lot of it doesn't really translate easily because there's a lot of metaphors, there's a lot of play on words. Additionally, when you think in a language that is so big and wide and like Arabic, and even, you know, the thought process is different, even the meaning of things are different. يعني, you know, in Arabic, you have like 100,000 different ways to say one thing, and then you have one word that means 100 different things. And it's funny because like just yesterday, 2 days ago, I was sitting with some people. We were having a discussion about this very thing, about language, about why I write in Arabic. And one of them was telling me, I would really, really love to understand what you were saying. So how, like, can you give me like a way for, like, how would you say is a way for me to understand your lyrics? And I told her like the best way, the way that is the most right, is for you to learn Arabic. I was like, it's not the easiest way, but it's the only way where you can actually understand. Otherwise, I can translate to you some concepts, I can explain to you what I'm talking about here or there, but it's literally impossible to translate something that carries all these feelings, that carries all these metaphors, that carries all this play on word.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Do you feel that your audiences in Europe connect to your music in a way that you feel is profound?
Interesting question. Well, my Arabic-speaking audience, for sure. I think I think people in the diaspora, especially with the I would call them the recent diaspora, the people who like me, I think like you as well, who maybe grew up in their countries, in their Arab countries, and then had to leave in their adulthood. I think these people understand my music the most because I'm mainly talking about these kinds of subjects and themes in my music. And what's interesting is that people who don't usually understand Arabic, who come to me, and this happens a lot, who come to me and tell me, I didn't understand what you were saying, but I could feel some of the energy, that I could feel some of the feelings in this or that song. And I think that's beautiful as well. Like people who don't necessarily understand the words, but who know, like who cap some of the emotions, you know, that are there. And yeah, I think that's powerful as well.
So what are some of these feelings that people connect with, do you think? And are they the same kinds of feelings for example, non-Arabs as they are for Arabs? Because in Europe, there are all sorts of other communities as well.
Yeah. Well, non-Arabs, Arabs. I can't, you know, I can't really speak for the non-Arabs because it's their, you know, each person has like their own takes what they want from it. I think a lot of things that people understand that you get from somebody's performance, from my performance in specific. Anger, for example, is very present in a lot of my lyrics. It's also in the way that I deliver the songs. I think that's something that they can grasp without actually having to understand what I'm talking about. I think they can understand sadness or nostalgia without necessarily having to understand the words that I'm saying. I think they can understand flirting or love. I think it could be understood from like the delivery, because I think a lot of things also, and this is different from when you write, when you rap, or when you sing, or when you perform on stage. You're not just writing something and then you're reciting it. No, there's also the effect of the sound that exists. So it's not just words, because there's also a lot of feelings, a lot of things that are carried within the sounds themselves, within the sound waves themselves, or within the within the music that exists in your voice, and within the tone of your voice. Like right now, for example, if I go like this, like even if you don't understand what I'm saying, you're gonna know that I'm getting heated up, or if I'm like that, like you can tell from when somebody's voice breaks, you can tell that they're breaking, and these are
so
things. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. How do you feel that people are able to connect with these emotions, considering what's going on in the world right now? You have wars, genocide in many countries. You have exile and, lots of refugee movements in Spain. That's a very important reality. You have fascist governments rising in many countries. Women's rights, are always a very important issue. And so some of these topics you address directly or indirectly in your work. And do you feel that you're able to speak to sort of people from different backgrounds and different experiences through these themes?
Okay, first of all, I would like to address the idea of like right now, because I don't think these issues are issues of right now. I think these are issues that have always existed for the past 400 or 500 years, because they are inherently at the heart of this imperial, colonial, capitalist world that we live in. That for imperialism to function, you need to have genocide, you need to have racism, you need to have immigration, because also immigration is part of the resources. Like we are part of these resources that the West steals from what they call poor countries, because they are poor countries because they are stealing their resources, because they are creating chaos, because they are not allowing us to actually create our own independent governments that allow us to actually be like to allow us to actually profit from our own resources, but also to allow us to build communities. And I think this is a problem everywhere in the world, but it has one name, it's colonial imperialism and capitalist colonial imperialism, and it's everywhere in the world. It's the same system everywhere in the world, committing genocides, committing ecocides, forcing people outside of their houses, outside of their communities, ethnically cleansing populations, destroying the planet as well, like even destroying the planet with like big corp, and usually it's done in like places where it's not here, like in our side of the world, or in South America, or in Africa, or so this is just to say that this isn't like, it's not like, I don't like this narrative of like what's going on now in the world, because even the genocide of the Palestinian people, it didn't start on October 7th. It's been happening for 76 years. The Nakba happened 76 years ago. We have refugee camps in Lebanon. There are refugee camps everywhere around the world for Palestinian people, are all over the globe, who are not allowed to return to their countries. Even before that, you and me know that, but like for the people who don't know the history, it's important for them to know that this isn't something that started 9 months ago. This is something that's been going on for 76 years in this region. And it has been going on for 400 years in other regions of the world. What happened in Palestine happened in North America as well. Until today, the native population of the United States lives in compounds, in what do you call them?
Reservations, yeah.
Reservations. They live in reservations. They don't have all their rights. Their water is being polluted. Their land, until today, their land is being stolen. So I really like the idea that people in the United States are beginning to be aware of this idea of colonization, but they should start from the one that is at home. They should start with like the oppression of the natives that is going on on their own territory, which is not their own territory, which is the territory of people who have been genocided also.
Yes, so and the history of slavery as well. And hip hop comes out of the history of the slave trade from Jamaica back to the US.
The idea also where we look at these kinds of historical events, where we look at slavery, for example, and we say, oh yeah, this was something that was happening. But this is something that is still happening. Even today in the United States, like the prison system is built in a way where Black and brown people are the majority, are literally 90%, maybe more than 90% of the population of prisons in America, who are being subjected to forced labor, basically, free of charge. This is slavery as well, when you look at it. When people are convicted of crimes that they didn't commit, when people are put in jail for when they are innocent. A lot of people are innocent. They're in jails in the US, and they're working every single day. They're doing hard labor every single day, and they're not paid for it. So this also is another way where, like, people think that imperial colonialism stopped, like, colonization stopped happening at some point, and that's not true. It's always been happening. The only thing that changes is the branding. The question now, to answer the question,
the history of hip hop. Let's connect it to the history of hip hop and how it came out of in Jamaica, playing on the turntables, moving to New York and the Bronx and living this sense of alienation, mixing records in the streets, and then just with the microphone or even no microphone, dropping lyrics to actually
not just hip hop, also jazz and blues and actually all the music that exists today in the United States is music that's been appropriated from black culture and Black communities. Just like here, for example, in Spain, they're appropriating music that comes from South America, or flamenco, which was something that was also for a time it was music that was like Roma people and Arab communities mixed together created this sound, and now you see being appropriated as well. And this is why I don't like to say I don't make hip hop music, and this is why I don't like to say, because I'm not part of that culture as well. I do create rap sometimes. Like, part of what I do is rap, but it's also spoken word. And there's a lot of influence in my work from things from my own culture, which is Zajal. I have a lot of influence from Zajal as well in the way I perform, and I try to bring that into my work, into something that is also something that is from a community that I can't really talk about because I didn't live, So so I don't even say that I'm a rapper. I don't even say I don't do hip hop anyway. Like I'm not part of the hip hop culture. I love hip hop, but music that I make, the music that I sing to, that I perform to, a lot of it comes from people from our region. Surely they have influences from hip hop, from a lot of different music scenes. But also there's a lot of influences from our own history as well.
Yeah. So tell me about the music that you were listening to growing up at home, and how you started, thinking about your own lyrics and your own sound and your own words, because you're a poet as well.
Yeah, like I never actually growing up, I never thought that I would rap, you know, like I would be involved in music. I really like music in general. I think I got into music mostly because of my mom. She used to take us to listen to jazz concerts when we were kids, me and my brother, and I used to just listen to a lot of our music, you know, like Fairuz, Sabah, Asman, this kind of stuff. But also I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop as well, a lot of rap, you know. And I really liked rap a lot, you know, when I was growing up. But the aspect of writing, I think, was apart from music when it came to me. Like I really liked poetry a lot, and writing came very early on for me. It came like from when I was 11 years old. It was kind of a way for me to express, because it was always really hard for me to express growing up. I'm getting better at it now, and I've come a long way working on myself. But when I was a kid, I didn't know how to express myself, and I think I found it really hard to say what I mean. And then I would say a lot of bullshit instead, you know, like I used to talk a lot, but I used to talk a lot of nonsense. And then when it came to things that I actually want to say, that I actually feel, it's still until today, it's really, really hard for me to admit how I feel, or to be, you know, to be good, like to say things out loud that I feel. So this is where writing came in for me, because I need to express that somewhere. So I started writing them out at a very young age, and I started like doing these poems. I really loved poetry when I was a kid. I read poetry in a lot of languages, in Arabic and French, and English as well. And yeah, so that just stuck around with me, the poetry part. And then later on, I became a journalist. So I was writing like big pieces and stuff, but I still wrote the poetry aside. It was like kind of something just for me and myself, up until one of my friends suggested that, like, why don't you try writing rap? Because he was like, we don't have any female rappers in Lebanon. So, and you know how to write, and you write really well. So why don't you try it? So I literally just started off with that, just as like a joke in a way, and then it later on developed into something that, okay, this is actually cool, you know, because I did it once and then I sent it to him, so he just sent it to everybody, and everybody's like, yeah, you should do this, God, yeah, and like, so I got a lot of push from the guys in the scene. Also, they were like, yeah, let's go, yeah, we need you in here. so so it's kind of like that, and I really found that it's really, I don't know, it's kind of, it added like another layer to the poetry aspect, because it's nice when I write it down, but also when I say it out loud, it kind of has another, like, it gives it a different kind of, you know, power in a way.
Yeah, and you're sharing it in community, and you're also sharing it with an audience. So tell me about the rap community in Beirut at the time and how it influenced you, how you felt about it.
Um, yeah, well, like when I was still living in Beirut, um, and also like my late teenage years and my early adult life in Beirut, I think it was a really nice time to be in Beirut during those years, because I got to live through a lot of events as well, and I got to see this rap culture kind of begin to, you know, like from kind of from its start, you know, like. To me, it was really important the period when you had the scene was split in half. You know, you had like the guys who rapped in Arabic, and then you had the guys who rapped in English. And each Wednesday, there was like a group of them in Radio Beirut at the time. And I used to go pretty much every Wednesday. You know, like on Wednesday, listen to the guys in Arabic, and another Wednesday, listen to the guys in English. And yeah, I think it was really precious time during then. There was maybe more space than now like now they're attempting to create, like now there's more rappers. What's nice that now you have like the scene is growing in the sense that you have more rappers. You have a lot of really talented guys coming out and doing really, really nice work. I love what they're doing, but I feel like they have like less places to just exist and like come together and create and experiment, and and I feel like back in the day you had like 2 or 3 bars with like little stages where the guys could just hop on and just like do like random stuff, and I think that was a really nice time during that time. And yeah, like to me what was like really an inspiration in all of that was what Mazen was doing during that time, Ross. And because I remember like when I discovered him, I was just walking down the street in Beirut and I saw like a poster like of Adam Darwin with Batrik, and it was like the album that he did with Munma. And I went to that concert and I was like, okay, let's go see what this is. And I remember I was like completely mind blown. I was like, whoa, hold up. Like, because I heard a lot of the guys before rapping, but it was a lot of, very much inspired by the West kind of rap, very superficial, if you want, kind of dissing each other kind of stuff, and flexing and this kind of shit. And then I listened to Mazen and he was like, all these political subjects, all this like really rich stuff, and I felt really inspired then, because it was like, whoa, okay, so actually there is space to write like that, because I felt like he was writing like, because then I was a journalist back then. I was writing with Al Akhbar, and I had a problem in journalism, which was that I was always being extremely edited, and extremely censored. A lot of things I wasn't allowed to say, or I would put something and then it would change it, and that really frustrated me a lot. And then I see this guy who hops on stage, who's basically doing a form of journalism as well. To me, it was like, okay, this is journalism also, because like the way that he writes. And the images that he gives, and like the way that he tells you the story, there's a lot there that is also informative. There's a lot there that you're documenting as well. And yeah, to me that was like, I think the biggest inspiration, and that was there during that time.
Yeah, very very important music that he was making, and his lyrics equally important. And the scene was also important because it brought together people from all sorts of communities, and it was responding to what was going on in Palestine and Syria and so on. And I was wondering, how you felt about being, joining the scene as a woman. I guess it was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, back then I wasn't really rapping, and I hadn't even about rapping. And I was just somebody who enjoyed rap music, and it was fine being a woman, in that context. You're just like an audience member, And later on, when I started rapping, I felt like it became a bit different, because I don't know, like I feel like a lot of the guys started treating me different as well. Like some of them started treating me like I'm a what do you say? Like like I'm there to compete with them or something like that, which is there's a lot of space, you know what I mean? And that's something that I realized when I started rapping that exists in the Lebanese scene, which is made me really sad. Which is there's a lot of little kingdoms there, rather than one community, and this is something that's exhausted me in the last 3 years. That I've been trying to get people together. I've been trying to tell them, let's get together, let's create community, let's do things together. But then when I do an event, I feel like if people come, like from big people from the scene, I feel like they often come to size me up, and and I feel like this is something that also has to do with the music scene in general and how it is in Lebanon, that because you don't have opportunities, so everybody feels like they have to step on the other person to make it, so there's a lot of competition. because everybody's competing over these two funds or this one space or those three people who listen to that music, or so and it makes me sad because I feel like, okay, a lot of people contributed in the sense that like support this or that person. A lot of people supported me as well. Like I can't say I didn't get any support. Like I got a lot of support from a lot of people in the scene. But still, I feel like a lot of the support that I got is a bit in a superficial sense because I am a woman or because I am talented. And, like you feel like people are nice to you on the surface because you have something to offer, but then they don't really try to build anything with you, unless they see that this is something that they're going to profit from. Um, and yeah, and that makes me very sad because I feel like Beirut is somewhere really, really vicious. It's always been really, really vicious, and I feel like for people to survive, they kind of have to take advantage of other people. They kind of have to be vicious themselves,
I think, it's the problem is the scarcity in the local scene, but it's also the music industry at large, because I think a lot of people feel that they have to go and, for example, become part of the, Gulf music scene and have a commercial sound and use auto-tune. And, for women, there's a lot of pressure to, perform femininity in so many ways. And you're really moving, away from that. You're keeping it really raw, your style, in every way. The sound is raw, your performance, which is incredible. And I think, personally, I really connect with your music because I think it's just so brilliant. It's the most, it's you're one of the most brilliant artists I've seen, coming out of the region, and I've been following it for 20 years at least. So it's not only because you're a woman or only because you're in spoken word rap. I think you have so much to say. However, there's not a lot of places for you to say it, and there are not a lot of places for people to understand what you're saying, because the audiences in the region are also accustomed to a very commercial sound,
Yeah, I agree. They're not, I don't entirely agree in the sense of, yeah, people are accustomed to sound, but also because the platforms that exist and the media that exists, it doesn't offer them anything else. Like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people in Lebanon would love what I do if they knew about it. But like, how are they going to know about it? Because if I don't do the typical stuff that the industry expects of me, then I'm not going to get a push from the industry itself. So it's actually interesting because I went to music, I went to writing, I started writing because I was very alienated as a child, and actually found myself even more alienated in the music scene. And this is quite sad because yeah, because like you said, like I don't fit in this kind of format, but at the same time I'm offering something new, and like people would rather be listening to something that is borrowed, something that is fake, something that has no soul, rather than support artists who are doing something original, and that part for me. And I don't think it's just the people. I don't think it's a problem of the people. Like I said, I think it's a problem of the mediums. And like one problem is the medium and the media, and like the status quo things of like people like oh, don't put that person on TV because they're not feminine enough, or they're not repeating the same word over and over again for an hour and a half. But also I think nowadays one thing that I find a bit hard, I think, is this idea that we are expected to be influencers as well, like yeah, I make great music. I love the music that I make. I started making music because I want to hear this kind of music, and I feel like there's not enough of it, like there's not enough women voices doing this kind of shit, being really hard, raw, authentic. And but at the same time, like when I do it, I feel like people they're not really pushing it, you know. And at the same time, I feel like nowadays you have to be a TikTok star to make it as a musician, and you have to be an Instagram star to. And this for me is like really sad, because like I didn't start making music, so I stand in front of a camera and do this and that, and like I don't know, and like try to engage you with like really short-term kind of engagement. I feel like this is really killing music in a sense, because you have these insanely famous artists, like right now you have like the Arab Americans, who are more famous than all the Arab artists that are making music. And you have Arab artists that are making music that is insane, that is really nice. They're putting a lot of work into their stuff, and they're giving content, you know, like they're giving proper content. And then you have these TikTok artists who have like the 20-second song, you know, an album full of 20-second songs, not even an album, you know. And these people are more famous because they're playing the algorithm game. And these are the famous ones. These are the ones that are getting pushed. Just like now, like, you know, you have like these Americans. They're literally, I call them Americans because they're Americans, you know, like the people who are Arabs who grew up in the United States, who are literally Americans. They have no connection. Like they didn't even, like the Palestinian Americans who only started talking about Palestine 5 minutes ago. And before that, they were just making like sexy music. And now they're like spearheading the whole Palestinian movement. Like, bro, you didn't even know Palestine existed 5 minutes ago. You didn't say you were Palestinian, and now you're like riding on this wave to make yourself famous, while artists and musicians in Palestine are eating dirt for literally, and they can't do anything. And I feel like this aspect is a bit sad, because also it tells you a lot about the way that we consume music. And the word consume here is very important, because this is what music has become. It's just become another thing to consume, whereas before music had a lot of different functions, you know. It has functions that are good, and it has functions that are bad, like and this is, I don't know if you want to move on to the idea of like music as a means of resistance. Yeah, I think music can be a means of resistance in a lot of places. Like we talked about hip hop, when it started, it was a means of resistance. Now it's not. Now it's just being something that is consumed. Now it's just whitewashed. Now it's just another aspect of capitalism, you know, another distraction for people. So this is the thing, like that worries me as well. Like, yeah, a lot of music, like, it should be something that's for resistance, but that not necessarily is, because in a lot of places it's being used as a way to fetishize certain ideas rather than to show you, than to resist. Like there's a lot of performative activism within music itself. There's a lot of music that is being used, like what's going on in Saudi Arabia right now, like the music washing and the sports washing that is happening there. And that's literally what it is, you know. Like right now, Saudi Arabia is putting hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars into music, and you have all these artists who are taking this money and who are becoming huge. I'm never going to reach that money because I'm saying these shit about Saudi Arabia. I'm never going to go and perform there because I have actual, you know, values in life. I have actual political values. But then I'm not going to be famous, because these are the people who are going to be put on TV. These are the people who are going to get sponsored ads. These are the people who are going to pay to push their work. So this is the thing. Like music now is only another aspect of this whole machine, this whole capitalist imperial machine. And it's just a distraction. And it's even a distraction when it's using our values, when it's using our resistance. It even uses our resistance against us in that sense, because you're like, oh yeah, Palestine, for example. But like now, like most people, when they listen to music that is about Palestine, you're listening to American rappers. You know, like you're listening to an American rapper making a song in English about Palestine. You're listening to an American diaspora rapper making a song about Palestine. But you're not listening to Palestinian artists. You know what I mean? And Palestinian artists, they're still poor. They're still, you know, really living in horrible conditions. A lot of them right now, for the past year, a lot of them haven't even been able to make music. A lot of them are in really bad situations. They're worried about their families. A lot of them left the country and are trying to make it work in other places. And then imagine how they feel when they see like all these people, all these foreign artists making all this music about Palestine when they can't even make music, you know? And so yeah, so like this to me is sad, because yeah, that music has the capacity to be a form of resistance, but it also is being used against us mostly, is what I see nowadays, that it's not actually a means of resistance. This is why I'm trying not to actually use music as a means of resistance. This is why I'm resisting on the street, because I feel like it's more important now for us to be out there rather than in here creating. I feel like we've reached a point where making music is pointless. To me, right now, making music is not a resistance. I'm not resisting with my music. I'm just making music. I'm just, I'm just making sounds. I'm making myself feel better. But that's not resistance. To me, resistance right now is actually disrupting, is actually going on the street, is actually trying to stop these big corporations, trying to stop the weapons from getting there, trying to slow down this or that company, trying to hurt them. This is resistance. Resistance is direct action right now, and everything else is just a lie that we tell ourselves, especially musicians. Like, I'm sick of hearing this. I'm sick of hearing music as a means of resistance. No, shut the fuck up. Unless you're Palestinian living in Palestine, or like a Palestinian refugee is like really, really suffering from the occupation, or somebody who is suffering from this occupation in one way or another, then your music is not resistance. Then your music is just a side quest for this resistance. Sorry.
Yeah, don't be sorry. This is really, I think this is really important. There's so many elements to, what you just said. The fact that music often comes out of movements of resistance. For example, during the Arab uprisings, there were musicians in the streets, and what they were saying was really important. And as you said yourself, often musicians and poets are saying things that aren't being said anywhere else, are speaking the truth when it's not in the newspapers, it's not on TV, it's not in the archives, it's not in history book. So they are making history in so many ways because they're saying what they're seeing, and it's unfiltered. And this is what you do. Your music, your lyrics are much more political than a lot of the music coming out of the region, for sure. I mean, directly political, because even Fairuz and Kulsum, it's not directly political the way your lyrics are. And then there's sort of a co-opting of resistance culture, resistance music, resistance lyrics by capitalist networks and platforms, as you said. And there's the censoring and silencing of this music and these voices by patriarchal imperialist forces, right? That women need to look feminine in order to make it, or they need to perform on TikTok certain seductive ideas, or they need to sort of tone their lyrics down, and a lot of their lyrics are like love songs or sexy songs or whatever. That's really a way to censor the truth, right, from coming out. And certainly in the region, there's so much censorship in terms of the music industry. I mean, and we know about it. But there's still a connection, though, between the streets and the music that's coming out of the underground, and I think it's a dialogue, it's not isolated.
Yeah.
I mean,
I had to say that what I was talking about was mostly in the term of mainstream music, mostly in the term of the music that is getting out there, like the music that is getting 1 million listeners, or 10 million views, or this kind of music is not a form of resistance. But for sure, you still have the artists of the street, the underground artists. And these artists know that is a form of resistance when it comes there. But I was talking specifically in the sense of Palestine, and the context of Palestine. So I don't think like it's resistance when an American rapper makes a song about Palestine. Yeah, thank you for mentioning us, but you are also trying to hop on the train, But I do think it's resistance when somebody in Ramallah makes a song about Palestine. I do think it's resistance when one of these guys in Lebanon makes a song right now, but whatever about him, just his day, how it was, because I know how hard it is right now to make music in Lebanon. You know how hard it is for them to access the means to create, and that in itself is a form of resisting everything that is wrong with the country, and yeah. And like it's different because, and I was talking specifically about the musicians that are getting a lot of funds, that are profiting from whitewashing, from sport, from like music washing, that are profiting from like these huge funds that are coming from the UAE, who is also committing a genocide in Sudan, and or from Saudi Arabia, who's complicit with the Israeli government, or from the government of Egypt, who's also complicit with the government of Israel. I think, or these like mainstream musicians, rappers in Egypt that are now bigger than any other artists, but whose content is like, yeah, I'm the strongest one, you suck. But if you look at the underground Egyptian scene, you see that there's like this entire subculture of rappers. Like if you go on SoundCloud right now, and you check like these young, like 22, 23-year-olds making rap music, very authentic, very emotional, very poetic. These guys, they're piss poor people making that music, the same in Lebanon. You have like these guys who are coming out and making music with like literally zero money. They're really trying to create. And to me, no, that is definitely part of the culture. That is definitely this music is the one that pushes the culture. But then these guys, you're never going to see them on the big stages. You're never going to see them rounding up hundreds of thousands of views and millions of views. You're never going to see them on Coachella. You know what I mean? But also, like, fuck that.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, alhamdulillah. I think it's very interesting what you said, and when we think also about the ways in which protesters are being repressed throughout the region, whether it's students, whether it's people marching on the streets, where activist organizers, we don't talk about it as much because people are scared to say anything, but journalists, activists and organizers, feminist, queer activists like Sarah Higazi in Egypt, suffered so much from the consequences of being out on those streets, that there's a generalized fear, not only of imperialism, Israel, and repression in Europe. I mean, we're seeing it in Germany, America, everywhere right now, but also of our own governments and our own police forces and our own populations, attacking us quite violently for expressing our ideas, but also wanting to, demanding liberation. And so the space for free expression is really so limited,
Yeah. What's the question?
Yeah, because, this idea that you're being repressed, at every level. You're being repressed by the industry, you're being repressed on the streets as well, and you're being repressed in the in the underground in so many ways. Like when there's an event in Beirut, you're always scared that the police is going to show up. In Egypt, it's quite well known how repressive the current government has been.
Egypt, like I know because I worked with Egyptian artists, and basically they have to censor themselves. And I see this sometimes, like because for example, we had this conversation a lot, me and Mabin. I don't know if you heard we did a project together with Shaltaf, Palestinian producer, and it's a three track EP that was released this year. It's called Nahas. And so Mariam and I, we had discussions about this endlessly. And it's interesting because also she comes from a family, like she's half Palestinian. Her dad is an activist, and he's not allowed into Egypt. Like he was literally, like he was in prison for a while, and then they took away his Egyptian citizenship and kicked him out of the country. And And so like Mabin is very she's very careful about what she writes, and I'm the complete opposite of that. Like I went into rap so I don't censor myself, but I do understand her as well, because if she says one word wrong, then her entire life is gone. You know, like in 1 second they could hop into her house, take her laptop, take her shit, put her in prison, and she will disappear forever. Nobody will hear from her, you know. So she's aware also of like the fact that she can't say anything that she wants to say, but at the same time she's still trying to say something. You know what I mean? She's still trying to, and that makes for a lot of creative ways that she actually writes in. And I really appreciate the way that she writes, because you see that she manages to say certain things that she really wants to say, but the way that she says it is very well thought of. um, and um, and yeah, to me, it's exhausting to try to do that, because I mean, I can't write a text thinking of how every word can affect every single person in the country, you know? Like, no, fuck it, you know? Like, all right, and if it bothers you, we'll deal with it. But then again, I have the privilege of doing that, you know? And that doesn't mean I'm more, like, this is the thing, like, that doesn't mean that I'm more rebellious than her. Because at the end of the day, I have a privilege in that sense to be able to say whatever I want. Even in Lebanon, like, okay, I could get, I don't know, like I could say something and like a certain group of people will get angry or another. But there's always a give and take in Lebanon. There's always like, oh, I will find somebody to protect me, or I will find somewhere where they can't get me, or I can communicate maybe with them and try to reason. But in Egypt, they don't have that margin at all. It's either you don't say it or you get fucked, literally. So that's also something. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really stunning album. So you want to tell me how it came together and how the two of you met and started collaborating, and also with Shelter.
Yeah, hold on, just give me 1 second. uh, let me, sorry. Okay. Basically نحس ما بين and I, we got to know each other online first, and we actually started making music around the same time. And somebody sent her علبة بقلب علبة, my song with the video, with the animated video, and she really loved that song. So she actually contacted me and was like, hey, I want to make some music with you. And she sent me what was like her first release at that time, and I really liked the music and I liked her vibe, and I was like, yeah, let's do something. And then we started, and that was like maybe 2 years ago, and we started talking about a concept. We actually started working on a track that we didn't end up making at the end. At the same time, I also met Sholtaf online. He lives in Lebanon. I was living here in Barcelona. Mariam was living in Cairo. So it's like it's very centered around the number three. This album, you know, like 3 continents, 3 countries, 3 people, three, you know, like three identities. You know, like Lebanese, Syrian, Lebanese, Palestinian, Egyptian, and three tracks, and each track 3 letters. This is what we went with, and also the album is 3 letters. There's Nahes, and essentially what happened is that Sholtaf sent me a beat, like the beat for Hawa first, and I showed it to Mabin, and she was like, "Oh, this is really nice. Let's hop on it together." So then I talked to him, and he was like, "No, actually, you know what? I want to drop this as part of an EP, and without lyrics or something like that." And I was like, "No, let's just do the EP together," because like you can't like give me a track that's this good and just take it away, you know. So we started working on Hawa, and we actually wrote the whole song with me being here. And then in November, I went to Egypt, and And we, in the course of 3 or 4 days, we wrote the 2 other songs and recorded and filmed. And so it was like really, we actually did it in a very short while. And yeah, I'm really proud of this project because it doesn't sound like anything. I'm gonna say that it doesn't sound like anything out there, and it has a really nice vibe. The two of us complement each other very well, like our styles, and also a lot of people put a lot of work into it. And I think it's really precious also because we talk a lot about us being women in the music scene and in the Arab world, and like our attitude towards what we were talking about in the music scene and all the problems in it, but also naturally we ended up talking about Palestine, because that was also what was going on and we couldn't ignore it. And it was like right after the genocide was happening. And yeah, and I think for me it's a really important project because it was a way for us as well to kind of connect these different places, and that are a part of all of our identities but are like separated through colonialism. And to us, Nahat was with this kind of connection, this kind of bridge in between Syria, Egypt, up until Palestine and Lebanon. This is why in Arid, like I was very adamant about putting the sentence, which in the street we say a lot here, which is من غزة لبيروت شعب واحد ما بيموت. And we changed that up a bit, where we said it once like that, and the second time was like من مصر لبيروت شعب واحد ما بيموت. And we talked a lot during the process about this idea of, like, for example, my grandmother, she used to hop on a train when she was a kid and go all the way to Egypt. And like, and I feel like this is something really cruel that was taken away from us, that we never got to experience that. And even though when you look at the people who live in these territories, you see that we share a lot more than, like, we have a lot more in common than what separates us. We have a lot of the same food. We have a lot of the same way of talking, or dialects are very similar. We have a lot of traditions that are very similar. So I feel like to me, this narrative is really important today to acknowledge the idea that this is just all one land, and it has been one land for a lot longer than it's been separate. Like, we've only been separated since 1920. That's like 100 years. We've been separate for 100 years, but we were together for thousands of years before that. Mlokhia is 1,000 years old. It was made up by the Fara'ine, and we eat it all across the region. And
you can't have mlokhia in Barcelona, can you? I guess you can now.
No, I have, yeah, we bring mlokhia with you from, like, have some in the kitchen.
Tabouleh?
We just made tabbouleh yesterday. I had a couple of Lebanese people over. And
amazing.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We carry the culture everywhere we go. And the poetic tradition is so important. You mentioned, being interested in poetry and Zajal. And this poetic tradition in the Arab world and, Arab-speaking countries is really deep and really ancient and has so many purposes, including political or spiritual purposes. And you're carrying it with you as well, like one of these wandering, those wandering poets throughout history, and also resistance poets, militant poets.
Yeah.
Is that something that you connect with as well from our history?
Like in my family specifically, there has been a couple of resistance writers and poets, like on my paternal grandma side. She was related to Said Aql, not Said Aql, not that Said Aql, but the one that the Ottomans hung. And he was a poet and a journalist as well. And on my mother's side, my grandfather, whom I've never met, who died before I was born, he used to write poetry as well, and he used to do zajal also. And I think it's interesting to read a lot of what he left behind. Also, sometimes I try to read it. I don't always understand, his handwriting, but I think a lot of it is very, very poetic in a sense. And he had a really hard life, and I think that we are very different, him and I, but also, like, from what I know about him, but also I think we share a lot of things. Like, we have a lot of things in common. And what's interesting about him is that his parents didn't send him to school, so he actually taught himself how to write, and he ended up being a poet. I think this is something poetically beautiful. In the sense of like rebellion or being revolutionary author, I think I owe it to myself and also to my community, or my many communities, that I attempt to create something which is revolutionary in a sense. Even though, like I said before, I don't think that the music that I'm making is revolutionary. And I think the work that I'm doing on the street with Palestinian organizations, I think that work is more revolutionary and it's more important. But I do think that that me being a woman, and being able to speak my mind and being able to speak about my emotions and offering this kind of different way of thought, and also different way of like rapping and constructing sentences, and even different way of rhyming. I think in that sense, yes, I am contributing something that is revolutionary in a sense, but I don't think it's something that people are going to appreciate now. I think it's something that maybe years from now, people are gonna realize what it is that I made. I kind of feel like I'm one of those people who will be famous after they die, you know?
You're still young. You're still young, and you are famous in your own way. I mean, you're famous to me, so.
Yeah, I mean, I have my crowd, which is nice.
You have your fans. You have your fans.
It means a lot, actually, when a lot of people come to me and they tell me how my music affects them, and to me this is really amazing. But I mean, in this sense of like in a cultural, in a much bigger sense.
Yeah. To end for today, let's talk about I mean, you've been so prolific lately. It's incredible. And really, really love your latest release also with Shaltif. So if you want to tell me a little bit about the lyrics and sort of the emotions that fueled this track.
Yeah, this track is actually different than all of my other tracks, because it's actually not on like the emotional side, and it's more on like I think it's the closest to like hip hop culture of that like that sense of like flexing, and me saying, oh look, I'm badass, kind of a way. I like it because it's more on the playful side, and it's also me saying I don't have to constantly be creating, super poetic, really deep stuff, and I can still have fun, and I can still create things that are, like make people dance, make people move, and yeah, I really like that track because also when I play it live, it's a real vibe. You know, everybody goes like hey hey, and then like it's very interactive and I like this. But the track is called Ta'nid, which is basically stubbornness, and it's me saying also it's like in relation to the music scene of like how it is and what we were talking about. So it's me saying like fuck you. You can still be toxic and shitty and yeah, and I'm gonna still do my shit. I'm gonna still make amazing shit. I'm gonna still drop things that none of you can even imagine, and people are gonna listen to it, and yeah, and it's just me flexing that aspect of just being relevant, as opposed to in a non-relevant way, but like yeah, but it's more on the fun side, and yeah.
So good. Thank you so much, Sabine. Is there something you want to share that you're excited about or working on right now?
I am really excited about this single that I'm doing now with Lilian Schlela. And it's my first collaboration with. I'm actually doing this, and I'm doing a little project with Noise Diva, and the two of them are like the first instance of me working with another female, like with a female producer. So that's really exciting for me, and it's really like bringing out different sides of me, and yeah, and like I'm such a fan of Lilian and her work, and I feel like this is like a power connection that should have happened a long time ago, and it's super cute working with her because she's also a fan of my work, so it's like it's like really really nice to do something together. And yeah, and it's like it's nice to come together also with another woman, Lebanese woman, who is also, in my opinion, like a living legend in the music scene, because she's also creating her own sound. She has given so much during the many years that she's been active in, and yeah, and like I really really appreciate the few women that we have in the music scene in Lebanon, or the Lebanese women who are really, really pushing the envelope, who are creating new sounds. And I feel like this is also important now for me as well, to be working on this creation of sounds that create an identity for us as well today, like as Lebanese people. And yeah, this is Tute.
That's great.
Hi.
Hi. Tute? Amazing. Yeah, Lilian made the soundtrack for the first Hia flyer. It was her track.
Yeah, she's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, thank you for having me. I don't know if you have any more.
She's a huge influence for us for this project. Huge. Thank you so much, Sabine, and hopefully we'll see each other in person soon and work together soon. And power to you.
Power to you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I can't wait to hear what's coming next. And, we'll talk soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.